Tell me about how it's going here first, just to sort of set the stage.
Okay, well, this is a lovely small nursing home with 90-some residents, and it worked very hard to keep the COVID virus out for a very long time. And just as of January 1st, the first case was detected in staff, and a couple days later we had our first case in our residence, and now we have, I believe, 11 residents who are infected with COVID 10 days later, and another 2 staff people. So it seems to be spreading pretty quickly.
How are the residents and the staff doing physically and mentally?
So far, thankfully, the residents seem to be relatively stable. A couple of them had needed fairly intensive care, and one lady did pass, for which we are very sad. The staff are very stressed. The staff feel very vulnerable, very worried about both their residents and their own health and the risks of what could come next. And that's why I really think it's important that we offer these residents and staff every tool at our disposal to try to protect them from the kind of devastating outbreak that we know has happened at other homes, both in red zones and some not in red zones, like the one in Bobcaygeon. Unfortunately, whether you're a long-term care facility in a red zone or not, once it gets in, the effect is the same. So I'm just very concerned that these staff and these residents get offered whatever we can to make this as minimal damage as possible.
And share that, because you brought up something that, and again, expand on it obviously, but the vaccines are being prioritized for the red zones at this point.
Yes.
And your thought is get it where it's needed the most. Obviously red zones, but if it's in a case like this for the Hope Street Terrace, get it here quick to prevent further.
Yes, that is my thought. And I mean, we have to recognize that obviously the full effect of the vaccine is going to take 2 doses and then 2 weeks plus. So we're talking 5 weeks. However, this infection seems to be spreading week by week. And I think at the moment it offers at least some possibility of partial immunity, perhaps a lesser severe case, at least get the ball rolling, because we have it available and these people are at very, very high risk. The residents at high risk of catching this and being seriously ill or dying, and the staff at high risk of catching it, being sick, not being able to look after the residents, spreading it potentially. So I just think it should be given a higher priority than those homes that maybe don't have any cases right now. I mean, yes, they all should be vaccinated, but at the moment, my understanding is that this area is not even within the first phase vaccinate long-term care. Like the government said, vaccinate all long-term care by January 21st, but this home, because of its location, doesn't qualify.
And forgive me, how many then have it here?
Right now, as of last 10 minutes ago, I think we have 11.
And how many people? How many residents?
At capacity, I believe there are 97 beds. There are several beds that weren't filled in the last 10 months because they were in rooms with 4 beds, and therefore as people either passed or moved, they weren't filled. So I think there maybe were 90 people or so.
So you're talking, that's a good percentage of people really that...
Yeah, at the moment it looks like about 10% of the residents have become infected. They're all in one small area around each other, so we still have 3 areas where there are nobody yet infected. So I'd like to see those residents get vaccinated, and I'd like to get the staff that are looking after all those people vaccinated. Again, it might be that the horse has left the barn. Maybe it's too late, but at least we can try and offer what we can, right?
Explain, if you can, a little bit, because, doctor, and I'd like to talk to somebody, or I'd like to know, how are the people, what are the symptoms of it, and how are they doing? Is it breathing? Is it mainly only breathing?
Symptoms that we're seeing at this home right now are primarily severe cough and shortness of breath, and we've been treating that with oxygen and with other treatments. A lot of the residents also just become very lethargic. Their food intake and fluid intake goes down. They become generally weak, and I think that's similar to what other homes have found with frail seniors, that they get not only the breathing and chest symptoms, but they just get general overall decline. And certainly other homes, I do work at 2 other facilities, and one has had an outbreak, and it's been 6 weeks since their outbreak, and many of the residents are still not back to their usual selves.
You've talked to the MPP?
I spoke to the MPP just about an hour ago, and he explained that there's a limited amount of vaccine and the government is having to figure out how to distribute it, and I appreciate it's a big, challenging job. But that said, I think the government needs to perhaps try to be more flexible in terms of recognizing that some areas that might not be hot neighborhoods might still have hot situations that require immediate attention.
And I guess it's sort of hope and wait at this point then.
Well, that's what public health has said. Public health has told us they don't have any vaccine and they don't know when they're going to get vaccine. At the moment, the closest facility that has vaccine would be Lake Ridge in Oshawa. And I know I have advocated to Lake Ridge to please try to find a way to get at least our staff, because they are mobile, they could drive to Oshawa. It is harder because of the logistics of the freezing systems and everything to get vaccine out this way. And I don't know how many kilometers the vaccine can be brought in terms of getting it to our residents. I hope they'll be put on very high priority, and I'm hoping they can figure out a way. At the very least, I'd like to see all the staff that work here looking after these people offered vaccine as soon, like today, tomorrow, as soon as possible, because they're right in the front line and they're working with positive patients who are not able to wear masks themselves and who need 24/7 personal care. So these are very high needs and fragile people.
Is it, if I can ask, because I know with the flu, it's not mandatory to get the vaccine for staff and that.
Yes.
Like, as far as I understand,
Yeah.
again, by all means, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But it's not mandatory. Is that an issue, or could it be an issue?
Certainly it's not mandatory, and I think there will likely be some apprehension amongst everybody. I know I got my vaccine on Thursday, and I'm going to strongly encourage everybody to get it. There's always some people who are going to be nervous about anything new, and there have been all sorts of questions, and there's lots of good resources to reassure people that this vaccine is safe and effective, and frankly, it's all we got. So I think offering whatever we can just makes sense.
Where do you go from here? Last question.
Well, I'm going to go inside the home to try to look after the positive people and look them after, see how they're doing today. I know the home is doing very intensive infection control measures to try to limit spread, to try to look after the people that are there, to try to look after their staff. I will go do the best doctoring I can do at the home and pray that things go the right direction and we don't get further spread.